Gentlemen, thank you so much for jumping on today. Obviously, this is Paudi and Damien from the 50X SME business. Yeah, beautiful. And it's awesome to have you on today.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
Delighted to be here. Yeah, thank you for having us.
Oh, great to have you on. And just before, obviously there'll be quite a lot of people who are watching this who do know your guys' background. But for anyone who doesn't, and even for myself, still exploring and understanding your guys' mission and the business and the real purpose and emphasis behind it. Now, what would you describe the 50X program as?
Go for it.
Where do we start? I thought you were going to ask us about our background first. How far do you want us to go back?
And we have a limited...
exactly. Yeah.
We're both big talkers, so you...
take your time. We'll structure it well. Yeah.
Well, I'm probably going to go back to my enterprise days, where I was working with a large telecoms company in Ireland, and I was working there as I ended up as head of sales for EMEA, and I really enjoyed that job, but I knew there was something missing. And I remember I brought in a external consultant to work with my team at the time, and we have a book there in front of you, Darren. I know we gave it as a gift. It's called The Green Platform. And I remember bringing in Declan Coyle to talk to the team, and I remember just listening to him, kind of going, "Isn't just hearing somebody who's got such an interesting story and a philosophy on life and a philosophy on business." And I was sitting at the back of the room, kind of going, "This is transformational." And I knew then and there that my future probably wasn't going to be in the company that I was in. I wanted to do what he was doing.
Yeah.
And about 3 or 4 years after that, I ended up going out on my own and setting up SME Matters. And the rationale behind it was to start working with small to medium-sized businesses. The opportunity came up when I was with Ericsson at the time to work locally. And I think I had 24 small businesses that came and met with me monthly. And the company sponsored my time to work with these companies. And I enjoyed doing that more than I enjoyed doing my day job, and realized going, do you know what, actually this consulting gig, I actually quite like it.
Yeah.
So when I was able to take all of the skills that Ericsson were investing in me at the time to be a better manager, I was kind of going back to these guys and going, actually there's a really good way of having a strategy in place. Actually there's a really good way for operational excellence. And suddenly, before I knew it, everyone was well, not everyone, but guys in the program were, actually, could you come in and help us do that in our business?
Yeah.
And I suppose that was the realization going, actually, that's what I meant to do. And that was the foundation of me, I suppose, starting SME Matters and starting it as a consultancy to help both strategic and operational development inside SMEs, using the principles that large companies use, but giving it in a way that actually SMEs can translate it into everyday activities. So that was kind of the foundation of it all. And then we roll on 20 years. We started that in 2007, and 20 years later, we're still working with small businesses. We're still helping them scale. And I suppose as we've progressed, we've moved from small businesses now to being mid-sized businesses and starting moving towards large businesses. And so we've the full spectrum of clients, and we're able to say, look at that business over there who's been through the journey and are now on the far side. And over the last, I suppose, 5 years in particular, we've seen a lot of companies moving towards exit. And, when you're being able to show that journey to others and say, look, we've been with companies at every part of the journey. We've helped them from the very start of their strategic planning stage to right through to exit. And here's all the challenges that they face, and here's how we've overcome them. And we've managed, I suppose, in the last maybe 2 years in particular, turn that into a guidebook for other SME owner managers. And I suppose that was always the plan. How do we reach more business owners? Because it's great to do it on a one-to-one basis, but how do you do it en masse? How do you bring all the skills and all the tools that you develop and get it out there to more business owners? And I suppose that's why we ended up here today. And when I started having conversations with Paudi about bringing this to the masses, Paudi and his background, I know he'll explain it from his perspective. He was coming at it really from the whole people and culture and organizational development side. Where I was bringing it from the strategic and the operational.
Yes.
And I was absolutely doing it from a culture perspective as well, because I would have used the Green Platform as a foundation, but I was probably more focused on that side of it. Can we get a strategy in place? Can we get it implemented on a day-to-day basis? And can we get the right people in the right seats doing the right thing? And then Paudi came in, and part of the story is he combined his element of people development with my strategic and operational side, and we came up with 50X.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And I think the thing for me, my background was 20 years as owner, part owner and director of my own business. And I would have loved to have somebody back 15, 20 years ago, maybe kind of 4 or 5 years into that journey, who'd been able to come and say, listen, you can come on a program and it's going to be a step-by-step guide. And one of our clients described it last week as paint by numbers for your business, for your strategic development, which I thought was quite funny. And it's if I had somebody, and like Damien talked about, just who could give you the guide and going, if you follow these steps in terms of for your business, but also for yourself. And I would have loved to have that. So when 5 years ago, myself and Damien started working together and doing a bit of work, it was like I was coming from someone who has had that 20 years, has had that pain. Like, it's lonely, you know, you're keeping all the big decisions away from your staff. You don't want to share them because you don't want to frighten them. You're keeping them away from your family. There's late nights, there's weekends, and a lot of the reasons people got into business in the first place because they had hopes and dreams. And after a few years, they find the business is kicking their ass. The business is kicking their ass, and they've gone, I'm not going to have a 9 to 5. Instead, now I have a 5 to 9. And and they're like, how did I end up here? And what happens over a period of time is the passion and the purpose and the drive and the energy that they started out with just begins to slowly evaporate because the business begins to build and they're brought further and further away from the part of the business that they love. And before they know it, they're just not getting time to do the things they love. And one of the things we said, one of the very first questions we ask anybody who comes on the program, or if we're doing any consulting with them, is, what do you want? That's the very first thing. What do you want? And they say, oh, we want to, get an extra million, or we want to double our turnover. Great. But what do you want that for? Oh, I want that to be able to do, and then I can expand. Yeah, great. But what's that for you? So what do you want your business to do for you? And this is the mindset shift that became really transformational inside there. We build it that you get a vision of your future and you flip the business to become the enabler for you, not the other way around. Where most people are in we call it the whirlwind of the day-to-day of the business, just, solving the problems, the staff and, their margins and, their growth and all those kind of things. And they don't get a chance to lift their heads up and say, well, what do I want? Well, I want in 5 years to be there, or 10 years I want to be here. And a lot of the time it's time. I want more time with my family, or I want to be able to buy a house in Spain, or I want to have a pension. I don't yet have a pension, or whatever it is. But it all starts with that one anchoring question, what do you want? And from what you want becomes your vision. And from your vision, then we take a look at the business. But the business is only secondary when you've figured out that what you want. When you get that want bit right, that's where you start to see the energy and the passion and the flow starting to come back into it.
It reminds me of Simon Sinek's Start With Why. That's it, the golden circle. But it's so true because what I feel there, I actually heard a great question there towards the end of last year, and it was the understanding of, what is your rich, which is very similar to what you're saying. This idea of, say, for example, you're going on a journey to, let's say, I don't know, Athlone comes to mind, right? I don't know why. That's it. Yeah, brilliant. That's it. We want to go there. That's it. But if you don't know where you're going, you're just going to be taking any street. Oh, that's it. And then even, but maybe you know where you want to go, but you haven't reverse engineered how you're going to get there. It's like, how the fuck am I going to get there?
But that's a secondary question. It's not even the primary question. Don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just worry about what is that destination and what does it mean for me?
Yes.
And when Paudi was mentioned there about setting that vision, one of the things that we at the very start of every program is get people to start writing that vision for themselves. So what is their personal? We call it their motivation. Their personal motivation, and we get them to identify at least 3 images that represent their future self, and it's a very powerful exercise.
Wow.
And we tell them to take a step back, have a glass of wine, chill out, be in a place where actually you feel like you belong, that you're nice and relaxed, and then imagine that in 3 and 5 years' time, and what's your environment going to look like? And there's a certain amount of resonance that you need, that when you can see something that you can almost feel and have the emotions of attained it already, you know, and you just kind of steal those in the future and you bring them back in now and you kind of go, and actually that's the future self I want.
Yeah.
And then we get them to describe it, because most people can't describe it. You know, they're busy. As you said, there's so much distraction going on in their everyday life, but be it family, be it kids, you know what I mean, be it work, you know, be it customers, suppliers, supply chain, you name it. And they never think about themselves. When it's the absolute fundamental question, you know, if you know what it is, then we can build the business to be an enabler for that successful you. But even that first exercise is getting them to put the motivator file, we call it, 3 images, and we get them then as a class to talk about it, you know, and I've seen people cry talking about their future self, you know, it gets quite emotional for them going, actually, that's the future I want for me. And you know, when you get that feelings, that you can now start transforming their thinking to believe that they're going to get it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, that transformation. And, you know, we've so many examples of this, you know, where we've had, you know, family businesses that have turned over the same amount for years. You know, we've a case in point, just, I love using it as an example, you know, a family business never turned over more than 4 million for the last 25 years. And, you know, one of the things you talk about purpose is to transform the way owner-managers think. You have a better one, I know. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But as a purpose, you know, can we transform the way they think? And within 3 years, they had doubled their turnover, but they were making more on recurring income in 3 years than they were in turnover when they started the journey.
Wow.
And, like, it was as much about the belief piece as it was anything else.
Yeah.
And like the how, we need to build the organizational structure, get the right people doing the right things, get the right reporting in place, all that stuff. But you know what? Like, I don't mean this facetiously. That's the easy piece. You know, we have loads of tools to do that.
Can I just say, because Damien is a master strategist, it becomes that he speaks with such ease, because, you know, and this is part of what we do in the program. We literally go, don't worry about that bit. That bit is just practical steps. But people get so caught up in, because they can't comprehend it in their mind. Don't worry about trying to comprehend it. Worry about what the vision is, and then get into the how, and then you start to, like, all the practical steps that get you there. And we talk about 15% is that first part in terms of thinking it out, and then it's 85% implementation, and that's where the rubber hits the road, and that's where, you know, you really start to get into it. But I had someone last week who's on the program just say to me, and it was just a check-in and that, and they would have started last September. So they're 6 months, coming up to 6 months in the program. And he just said one thing. He said, 12 years running my business, and I'm back enjoying running my business. He says, I have a clear vision. He says, what I want to do. And I was, what do you want? And he says, I'm going to have my house paid off in 2 years. He says, I'm going to expand this, and now in 10 years I want to be out. This is great. But he said the joy is back in his business. He's now nearly gamified it for himself. You know what I'm saying? He's gamified it. He goes, oh, if I do this here and I do this here, okay, so he's figured out if he gets 2 extra staff, that equals this, and, you know, that gives him that. And if he does that right, and then he's a very high level of customer service, he does all that really well. That's all needed. So we're not, when we're saying this stuff, we're not dismissing challenges that you have. You're still going to have to deliver at a really high level. You're going to have operational excellence inside the business. You're going to have to develop your people, your leadership. You're going to have to do all of that kind of stuff. But in the middle of it as well, what brings you the energy to do that is if you're enjoying doing it. And that just gave me such a smile, because I know if he's enjoying doing it, he's going to be able to push.
Extraordinary. Reminds me of, I don't know if you watched the most recent podcast of Tony Robbins and Alex Hormozi.
I did.
I watched it like 3 or 4 times.
It was so good.
Oh my God. I like changed my life.
Coaching masterclass.
Literally.
Coaching masterclass.
Yeah, it was like, you know, and he was talking a lot about the push versus pull motivation. That idea in the beginning, and that was a big insight I had as well. And I think because obviously we speak a lot to the younger sort of entrepreneurial guys, and in the beginning you guys would know better than anyone else, it is about push. You're having to really push through the barriers and prove to yourself. It's more so about proving to yourself you can do it. And then it gets to a point, as Tony so rightly said, and I think that's the shift I've had big time recently, where you go, you know what, actually, for it to be the most fulfilling, it's like it's about so much more than me. And when that's where then you're pulled by something greater than yourself. It's like that your gifts weren't given to you just for you to, you know, feel the grandiose nature of them, but they're given to you for you to give them to others. And I feel that's where it's like all suffering is caused when it's focusing on me. And then it's like when you can shift that spotlight off of yourself onto others, like that's where, as you so rightly said, it's that community and building that community. Yeah.
And you're back to sense of purpose.
Yes.
You know, and it's funny, again, you know, we talk about the line of sight in terms of how do we get companies to start transforming the way they think. Well, again, we've exercises laid out, kind of going, well, let's get your motivation file done. And as part of that, actually, we didn't mention it, is we get them to write their joy list. So as part of the journey, can you create your joy list? These are the things that you'll do now to reward yourself for the hard work that you're putting in. So there's like, you know, little bits of encouragement to say, look, if I can build this business, this is what it's going to give me. And the more you get through your joy list, the more reinforcement you get to do the right things. So it's actually a win-win. But one of the things that we get them to do early on is to write their purpose statement. You know, so as a company, yes, we need your vision. We need to know what you want personally and set a vision for the business. But then what's your purpose statement? And we are just like so adamant that every company has to have its purpose statement. And what we mean by purpose statement, if we distill this down, it's, you know, this is what we do and this is how we benefit others. So like if you can answer those two questions and you can distill that down to a very simple sentence, then it'll resonate. It'll resonate with you, it'll resonate with your staff, it'll resonate with your customers. And then you communicate it, you put it up everywhere. So again, we encourage all our customers to put their purpose statement up. The minute you walk inside the business, you should see the purpose statement and use it as a point of contact going, that's our purpose statement. That's what we do, you know. And, you know, over the years, you know, we've often been called in to do, you know, help us build a marketing strategy, help us build a sales strategy, you know, help us build a people strategy. And we'll always revert back before we can do any of that. What's your purpose? You know, what's your core business? What do you do and how do you benefit others? And honest to God, when you can get companies to clarify that statement, and it resonates with them. And this is the thing, not just doing it because, it looks good on a wall. You know, it has to resonate. And I suppose that's a word we kind of, you know, really try and push people going, if it doesn't resonate with you, you keep distilling it down, what we do, how it benefit others. Yeah. And honestly, when you get that statement, everything starts to fall into place. And it's amazing how you can start making a decision going, that's not on purpose. No, we're not selling on purpose. We're not marketing on purpose. And you flip it on its head going, well, now we can market on purpose. We can sell on purpose. We can hire people on purpose. Yeah. And when that resonates with other people, and, you know, how many times do we say to people, communication is 78% non-verbal. You know, you set a tone inside an organization which resonates with others. And when you set that tone, you just attract the right people. You know, the right people come to you. Yeah. And that's back to what's your company purpose. You know, so another, again, just a discovery of the journey of building a business to last. Be a purpose-driven business. And
that joy list Damien's talking about is so important because the road is long and being able to enjoy the journey along the way. So on your joy list, some people have concert tickets. You know, the joy list is all about having things that money doesn't exclude you from doing. For some people, it's walking on the beach with their partners, with their kids. For some people, it's, you know, it's what I had a great example of one, which kind of shared a little bit of my vision 5 years ago when I was transitioning out of my own business into this new world, which was, what did I want to do? I wanted to work with really good businesses who had really good people on really good projects. That was kind of my vision of what I wanted to do. And part of it, I wanted to enjoy the journey along the way. So at the weekend, I had a client who I work with said to me a couple of weeks ago, what are you doing on the 22nd? Was it on Saturday? What are you doing that weekend? And I said, well, he knew I was into skiing. And he says, I'm going to do a 36-hour ski trip. I says, to where? To Austria. He says, yeah, we go out 7:30 Saturday morning and we get there at 12 o'clock and we ski for the afternoon and then we get all the Sunday. And so last weekend we had the joy list. And we went out and we did the trip and we got on the slopes at 12 o'clock and we got Saturday afternoon and we watched the Ireland-England match at the top of the mountain on my little phone. There was about 9 of us in around it and came down, had a couple of beers. The next day went skiing again and I was back home at 8:45 on Sunday evening. Brilliant. Just the joy, you know, that was part of just the joy of being able to do that. I brought my son and that's really, really important. And that just creates, again, that energy and that fire to be able to come back in Monday and go, right, we're back on. And so we're big advocates of, that's all part of this mind transformation that people go through, as well as obviously all the strategic cultural and leadership parts of you know, transformation.
I love that.
I think our clients like to see it as well. Like we share it,
Yeah.
So, when we do that exercise in terms of them, the business owners creating their vision board, their motivation file, like we show them ours and kind of going, well, this is what ours look like.
Yeah.
Because we're in the exact same boat. We're business owners.
Yeah.
We want a life for ourselves. We want to enjoy the journey. We want to do it with people that we like working with.
Yes.
We want to do it in a way that has a positive impact not only on ourselves but on the environment at large. And so we're trying to set that tone from the inside out. So we show them ours. So Paudi sharing that story about his own joy list, and like I think it's really reassuring that we're living this journey as well.
Correct.
So this, as much as we're trying to say we can help business owners achieve a life that they ultimately desire and do it with a lot less friction, with a lot more joy, we need to show them that we're actually doing this too. We're business owners. We're on the exact same journey. We want to do it in a way that is meaningful.
I think that brings an authenticity to it as well.
Correct.
And where we started out a couple of years ago looking to develop a program, it quickly transitioned into a community. And that was very big for us because that gave a much bigger sense of mission. And we were just like, look, when we look at it, there's like Ireland is just built on, and I know our tax receipts to tell us like our, the big multinationals have, are holding the country up, but it's the SMEs who have built Ireland to this stage and will build it into the future. And there's so many people out there working so hard, breaking their back to just try and sometimes pay a wage or a living for themselves and haven't really got a vision of the future that they want. And there's so much untapped potential out there. And that actually makes us really excited because we're going, if you only knew when you got past, the beliefs you have about yourself or beliefs they have about the business, or have you got a little bit of structure in terms of looking at how you organise yourself or looking how you organise your customers. Damien runs a brilliant sales strategy class that people come out of just going, like their minds just start to pop when they go, that's very practical. Like everything we do all along is inherently built on practicality and implementation. We want people leaving, able to walk in on Monday and go, right, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And as part of that, one of the things we saw early on was if we just have, say, the business owner coming in doing the programs, they're going to be coming back talking about things like 1x and 50x priorities. And the others in the business will be going, what the hell is this? What are we talking about? This? So we made that our 3 or 4 masterclasses in the year, you can bring all your staff to. You can literally bring, if you have 2 sales staff, bring to the salesman. If you have 3 senior people, if you want to bring any of your senior people, come along to any of the programs. And it helps massively with the buy-in. Because then when they're talking about it and they're talking about that passion, they're kind of go, oh, I know what the call to action of a 50x activity is. So they're much more buy-in. And we've actually had people now this year who are going, I know we were on it, but can I put my number 2 on the program now as well? Because again, it's building that traction and building that buy-in.
Correct.
And that's where you see the magic beginning to happen.
Because it's a culture shift.
Exactly.
That's
exactly it.
Yeah.
And, in addition to that, when we start talking about culture and we start talking about culture transformation, I suppose we've learned we have to have a common language. If we're going to build a high-performance culture inside an organization, we need the language of high performance.
Yes.
And I suppose this is where we came about the name. And there's a story behind the 50X. Of a second, I'll tell it. It's always one of those things where, we always remember moments in our lives where you see something and you kind of go, that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a hook. You just catch it. Literally, your 2 hands are out there going, I'm so glad I was there to catch that. We had a program and I'm going back, I'd say the guts of maybe 20 years. So this is very early on when during each session, and we've carried this all the way through in our 50X programs, you have assignments to do back in your business. Now, when people say assignments, everyone goes, oh my God, I have to do work outside the program. But they're all best practice tools and techniques that we ask you to apply. And we make it really easy for you. We give you the template, we give you the tool, we explain it, and then you get support in terms of implementing it. So you have a really good chance of being successful with it. One of the owner and managers came back after the session, and the assignment for that period was a really simple one. It was to contact 3 to 5 business owners that you hadn't done business with in the last 2 to 3 years. Very simple. And the target was 20,000 euros. So everyone went, God, we have a month to earn 20,000 euros from lapsed customers. The next session was about 4 weeks after that. And we had one of the business owners walking in, and I just still remember him, big smile on his face, the body language was there, the enthusiasm was there. And if it was a classroom situation, he'd be putting up his hand going, "Can I please talk, sir?"
Yeah.
So went to him first and said, "How did you get on with your assignment?" And he said, "Guys, this has just been brilliant for me." He said, "I identified 5 customers, and from that, I started to call 3 of them, because I felt they were the best 3 to start with." And he said, the very first call that I made, the guy had forgotten all about me as a service provider, and it was a nice conversation. He said he'd keep me in mind. But he said the second call was a business owner that had a tender out. And he says to our client, he says, "Why don't you go for that? You're in the right position to go for that." And in the course of the 4 weeks, he'd applied for the tender, had won the tender, and the tender was for €1 million a year.
Jeez.
So his €20,000 exercise turned into €1 million in turnover in year 1.
Wow.
And he kept that contract. I think over 7 years he had that contract. But in that first year, that's a 50 times return for doing that type of activity. And that's the epiphany where you kind of go, there are some activities inside a business that if you do, you get 50 times the return.
Yeah.
And if we start looking about how we best use our time inside a company, can we use it more on the 50x side, more on the strategically important activities that really move the dial? And if you're a business owner and you realize that and you know what they are, can you get your next guy to do that? Can you get your next guy to do that? And suddenly you get this multiplier effect that everybody inside the organization have a clear knowledge of what their 50x versus their 1x activities are. And you're giving them an opportunity to excel. And good people love this, And now suddenly you've introduced a high performance language in the space of seconds. Now, even for anybody listening to this podcast, when they're looking at how do we communicate high performance, what's your 50Xs? What are the activities that are really going to move the dial, not just for you, but for those around you? And start talking 50X. Is that a 50X activity? Is that a 1X activity? Where am I spending my time? Where are you spending your time? And challenging each other, kind of going, is that the best use of your time? Because we've broken it down that, as a senior leader inside an organization, whether you're an owner or you're a senior manager inside of it, if you're spending at least 50% of your time doing 50x activities, you're really moving the dial. And they're the companies that grow 20%, 30%. And we've seen growth of 40% per annum. We've seen growth in excess of that just by doing these 50x activities. And part of the program is to get owner managers and their team all working on a high-performance language, doing high-performance tasks. And we just make it easy in terms of these are what the high-performance tasks look like. Here's a tool for it. Here's a template for it. Here's the support that you need. And then as a group, you get a chance to challenge each other going, how did that work for you? This didn't work for me. I'm going to try this. And there's a peer-to-peer learning environment as part of it. But that 50x language has just been transformational for so many companies.
I love it because even what I'm hearing there is, you're making it almost extremely simple for them to take action, because then there's that positive reinforcement and then people are enjoying it and there's that passion behind it and there's the clarity. So then it creates that positive reinforcement consistently in the culture and in the community. And it's like, once you get that, because I think the hardest thing for most people, from my perspective anyway, is if you're consistently doing an action and you're not getting the results, after a while, of course, the motivation's going to go down, the confidence in yourself, your connection to the company and everything, and then the managers and so forth and performance. And it can be just due to, A, the mindset, but then B, it's like, are we strategically doing the right things that are going to get the best results? Because it's like you can be flogging a dead horse,
Right.
That's it, yeah.
I just said, there was a group last week, I introduced this for the first time. It was a group of marketing managers all around the country. And I introduced that. It was only a half-day workshop, and it was literally just the last kind of 45 minutes. I said, you know what? I said to the guy before who was in charge, I said, look, I have this, it might be useful for them. They just could not get enough of it, just because there was a lady there, and she'd just come back off maternity leave, and she said it just gave her such clarity. Because what we asked them to do is we explained what a 50x and what a 1x was. And I said, what I all want you to do is I want you to take 5 minutes, and I want you to write down your 50x for this quarter, and then 50x's for the year. So one of them 50x for the year should be financial, and the other 2 might be getting a tier 1 new customer or whatever it is. So you have 3 things, and then your 3 quarterly things might be building towards one of those yearly things. And it was just 5, 7, 8 minutes for them to do it. And in that moment, she checked out when we were checking out, finishing the day, and she was just like, came back 4 days ago. My head's all over the place. I didn't know where to focus. I didn't know where to be. And she was just like, this is it. This is the one. And then the guy who's running who's in their boss, rang me 2 days later, and he says, "Can you give me a bit more?" He said, "Is this yours?" And I said, "Yeah, this is ours." And he was like, "Okay," because I'm looking up on a line to try and find it. And I said, "Yeah, you will find it. This is ours." But he thought it was he thought it was this big global kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's just practical stuff.
Yes.
Done, but put in a sequence of order.
Yeah.
That, when you say to people, they have a load of these moments where they're going, oh, that's how I think about it. Because like the mind loves little frameworks.
Correct.
To help break things down, which are seemingly complex, and make them simple. So they all left there going, and I just said to the guy who's the boss man, I said, "You're meeting them in a month." I said, "If you want, I'll come on for an hour." But that 50x, Damien says, becomes that call to action, that high performance language that everybody understands. And, you get to challenge each other going, is that a 1x or is that a 50x?
Yeah.
And how are those things going? So it helps. We always say there's no such thing as time management. It's all about prioritization.
Yeah.
How do you prioritize your time?
I love that.
And that is how you do it, because you just ask yourself in the morning, you write your list and you're going, how many of those are 50x? Because we tend to do the ones we like, right? We go, oh, I like that one, so I'll get that one first. And that's human nature, which is fine. And if we want to do the ones that are going to make the difference, move the needle, they're the 50x ones. And as Damien said, we're constantly pushing them towards spending 50% of their time on 50x activities. Now, it can take sometimes 2 years to get there, to get to that point, because sometimes you have to bring an operations manager, or you need, change your structure, your business, or you need to bring. So there are things, but to get to that point is, again, that vision of where you're going becomes really powerful, because, to get there, I need to do this. To get that time, I need to. Yeah. So that's where the how begins to map itself out once you start the journey.
And then your joy list assists you to enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the
journey.
Yeah,
because
it's
you
not
got
that destination, piece where you're going, when we get that extra 500,000, or we get this, or when I get a 20 grand month, or whatever your thing is, which are great, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's just not, you're not living your life for that moment. You're just going, it's today.
Yes.
Today. How many of us, like Green Platform, the book we just spoke about before we came on, Declan Coyle's. Declan Coyle, he's a friend and mentor of ours. And this is what we run as a program. But like I always say when we talk about the Green Platform, how many people have got up in the morning, it's teeming rain down outside, and they immediately think about today? What are you going to think about today?
It's funny, my cousin, on that note though, it's great that we're going into this. My cousin messaged me there, and she was, she might be listening to this. She's like, Darren, the rain, it's never been like this. And I said, look, to be honest, Lauren, I haven't even noticed, because I just get up and I'm like, gym, my brotherhood stuff, I know what I got to do, and I'm in, and as long as I've got that, I'm happy. Do you know what I mean? But I hear you, there are a lot of people,
a vast majority of people will go look outside and go, oh my God, it's raining so heavy, and it's this and that, the other, and they haven't had their coffee, haven't had their tea yet, and they've made a decision that that's going to be a crap day.
Correct.
So they're now reinforcing that. They get into their car, and obviously because it's raining, the traffic is slower. So they're now reinforcing another step, because the traffic is slow and it's raining. Double. So what are people like with this unconscious mindset by the time they get into work? Yeah. They're just in, and the guns are out shooting everybody, because it's just like, everybody's all, when you just have that, make that unconscious bit conscious, and kind of going, it is raining, and today could be the day I get that new £1 million client. Yeah. It could be the day.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, so true.
Why not?
And this is where it gets really interesting, right? So we take the concept of breaking down a language that everybody can understand, and it's high performance. And then we start talking the language for an owner-manager going, we can actually make your business bigger, more profitable in a way that you will really enjoy it. And, again, early on, we get the owner-manager to start setting out what we call their economic drivers. So we give them an exercise in terms of breaking down all of the revenue streams inside their business, both from a revenue perspective and from a profitability perspective. Now, for some companies, and I know this sounds surprising, particularly as business owners, you're probably going, this is something I would always do, know my revenue, know my profitability. But believe it or not, a lot of companies don't. They wait till the end of the year, they get their P&L, they don't look at their balance sheets and all that nice stuff. But when they suddenly realize going, actually, unconsciously I've been building a business that isn't bringing me in the direction that I want to go. And there's an amazing power that when you actually realize that and you're kind of going, actually, these are my current economic drivers. And we use that language. This is your current economic drivers. What's it going to look like in 3 years' time? So I've seen I just an amazing story, from somebody, that again was on a program years ago, had a sliver on their pie chart, which was 4% of their total turnover, but was given 10% of their profits. And they made a conscious decision going, in 3 years' time, that is going to be 100% of our business. So it's like, what a sacrifice. When you look at that, you go, look, all the other slivers on your pie chart, you're going, they're not for me anymore. That is not the business that I want. And 3 years' time, the Drew pie chart, literally with it, that's all, that 4% is now going to be 100%.
Wow.
And that success story is widely known. Again, we don't really talk about who clients are in the program, etc., and give away their secret sauce. But they're widely successful at the moment. They've over 500 employees.
Wow.
They're operating on 5 continents. And those simple decisions from a business owner perspective going, I can see that revenue and I believe it. And I know this brings us back to the belief piece. And there was one of the things that we did, as during that transition, was we asked the members of the management team about this revenue in 3 years' time, and none of them believed it. It was phenomenal. They all rolled their eyes, and I was in the meeting as an observer, really, And the owner asked me afterwards, going, "What did you think of their reaction?" And I was kind of going, they may have been the guys who got you here, but they are not the guys who are going to bring you on the journey to where you want to be. And systematically over the course of maybe 18 months, he replaced everybody in his management team.
Wow.
And, they, just getting the right people in the right seats, doing the right things. I know that sounds really easy, but look, it took 3 goes to get the right operations manager.
Yeah.
It took 2 goes to get the right salesperson. But the persistence in thinking, that's the business I want in 3 years' time. That's economically how I want it to look like. That's how I want it to be broken down. That's the profitability that I want. Now I just need a team that believe that this is right for the business and right for them personally. And that was, again, belief turning into reality. So can you create the business that you want in 3 years' time? The answer is absolutely yes, because we've seen it time and time and time again. And I suppose there's a real beauty in this when you've been on the journey and you've been the far side, and you can look back and you can talk to business owners that are just starting this realization, and they're kind of going, that couldn't be me. I can't believe you can make this happen. And you're saying, here's all the examples. And would you like to talk to these people?
Yeah.
They're in the community. They're there. They've been on the journey. We've people who've now working with us as consultants, as facilitators, who were ex-business owners who got their sale, who've been on the business journey and sold their company and are now coming back on. We drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
We know what success looks like. We've done all the assignments, we've done all the exercises, and we've built the team and we sold the business. And now they're coming back as facilitators, kind of going,
They want to give back.
They want to give back.
Yeah, of course.
That's and that for us is just the epitome of success.
And that's not about money. That's not about money for them. That's about community and
Correct.
about giving back.
Service.
About, being of service and just going make it about them. That's something, and that comes back to what are your values. And we have 3 very clear and clean values. It's do the right thing, do right by others, and have fun along the way.
Yeah.
And it's it's something I didn't have at different parts of my life, but the clarity on your values. And when you're going into a partnership, with somebody like myself and Damien, and other people will go, that alignment of values is so important, because it only really comes to the surface when the going gets tough. When things become difficult and you get that squeeze on what do you really believe in, and what you do believe in will act out. And if you have 2 partners who are misaligned in their values, that's where the pinch point comes in the separation.
I've experienced that.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So you would have seen the same.
Oh, correct. Yeah, because I moved here with a girl, and then very early on we realized we wanted different things, and that was very difficult. But also, I realized, I think we both realized, but certainly even from my regard, I realized it was like, no, this is a crucial part of who I am, and I can't change who I am for the sake of someone else, because then that's a performance and that's not authenticity. And yeah, I would certainly say, like, I mean, it reflects in every area of your life, because there's kind of aspects I'm hearing, if I was to hear kind of like a pathway you guys are speaking about, because I love thinking in frameworks too, is it's like, it starts with purpose, because then purpose brings alignment into self. And then from there, it's what are the beliefs holding me back from creating that purpose? And then from there, it's like, what are the framework, strategy, and tactical applications to bring that forward? And then the joy list enables you to enjoy the journey of however long that comes. It's not attaching to a when, but it's knowing that's the target, and I'm going to enjoy the journey to getting there, and I've got the tactical procedures to execute on it. Is that correct?
That's absolutely. You know, you just described, you know, when you talk about the frameworks, you know, motivation, external and internal vision. So external for the company, internal for you. Then you're into your purpose statement.
Yeah.
Then you're into strategy, and inside strategy, financial, market, customer, efficiency, innovation, people and organization. There's 5 pillars in there.
Yeah.
We build your tactics out of that. So that's kind of on the left-hand side of the chart, if you like. And you know, when we talk about strategy, what do you want out of it? And what's a good definition of strategy? It's a plan of action to reach a predetermined goal.
Yeah.
So if you, even to have that definition of strategy, a plan of action to reach a predetermined goal. Now we bring you back to what's that goal? What's that goal for you? What's that goal for your business? And you know, and so if you start looking at the left-hand side, we have all of the tools, the templates, and the mechanics of making that happen. But sometimes a little bit like driving with a handbrake on the car. If you don't have the other side of the coin, which is the belief.
Correct.
If you don't have the belief, then you're never going to feel that you're going to be capable of making it happen. So you don't have the feelings behind it. If you have the right feelings, it gives you an energy level that gives you the enthusiasm. Get out of bed every morning and drive the sales, drive the people, drive the operations, whatever you need to do. And when you have that focus, and when you have that high level of energy, you get focus. And what does focus give you? Focus gives you results. So if you can actually tailor your own, I suppose, your mindset in terms of that journey that you have to go from belief to feelings to energy to focus, and focusing on the 50 X's, then we just need to make sure you've got the right 50 X's. And all the tools are over here on the left-hand side as part of the program in terms of determining what the right 50 X's are. And that's why we spend an inordinate amount of time in terms of not just focusing on the strategic side of it and the tool side of it. It has to be hand in hand with your personal development piece, your business transformation piece, changing the way you think, changing the way you perceive things, you know, understanding that just because something happens doesn't mean it's negative. It's actually, you just don't know how it's going to be positive for you in a couple of months' time.
Yeah.
And just stepping back and choosing, you know, and again, you know, we go again back to the philosophy of the program and using the green platform as a base. You know, like we all wear these nice little green bands and talk about this little white space in the middle, you know, and that's the time that you get to choose. You know, I probably can't see it in the camera, but it says my choice.
Yeah.
You get to choose how you react to every situation. You know, so Victor Frankl,
Yeah, nice.
It's really a powerful tool that is, again, an easy language to understand. Going, you can choose. Do you want to choose negative or red platform, or do you want to choose positive and green platform? And we are very clear about distinguishing between being positive and being proactive.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, I'll steal some of Declan Coyle's language around this. You know, just because you look out in the pavement out front, you see all the weeds in there. The positive action is not going to change that. Positive thinking is not going to change that. You can accept the situation. There's weeds in my garden.
Yeah.
What's the positive actions that I have to take to get rid of them? So you've got to meet it halfway with these positive actions, and they're the 50 X's. And from a business context, if you have these written down, you know, because like so many business owners have an idea of what success looks like for them in their head, and they expect that everybody telepathically understands what this success looks like, and they have set this expectation here, and then when people don't deliver, there's this gap between success in the mind's eye of the owner-manager and what people think are doing a good job. And this gap causes so much animosity inside a business. Or imagine a scenario that you as an owner-manager were able to take these 50 X's out of your head, put them onto paper, and better still, develop the 50 X's in conjunction with your people. And say, this is what a 50X looks like. And then communicating it. So, you know, do all the nice things, set the KPIs behind it, set the expectations, and communicate it going, that's what success looks like. And really good people love this. They love to know what success looks like for the company and for them, because it brings out the best in them and you give them the autonomy to make it happen. So that's, again, I suppose, I know I'm describing the kind of the full philosophy there, but that's why it's really important to have 50Xs on one side, but an atmosphere of like-minded people who are all thinking the same way. So when you sit inside a 50X program, and particularly at an early stage where you're trying to make this transformation yourself, because, you come into the program, sometimes you come in with the right belief pattern. Sometimes it has to be something that you have to learn and something that you have to work at.
Yeah.
But then when you're in a community of people who are talking the same language and you're hearing somebody at the top of the room talking the same language, and suddenly you see the results of people all adapting the same approach, it becomes part of who you are. And anybody who's been on this journey over the last couple of years, and we've had people on the program that are there 10 and 15 years, believe it or not. They just keep coming back because it's not that the program is teaching them much anymore. It's the sense of community.
Yeah, love and belonging.
It's the belonging, and it's the knowledge that they can walk in and sometimes they'll come in bad form, but the community will kind of go, that's okay.
Yeah.
Get it off your chest. Yeah. It's okay. Now, what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yes.
And so many months. So it's, you come and meet once a month in person, as you said, the in-person part. And Damien, just that part you said, I have a guy who was in the program for the last year, and he for the first 4 months, he said, every time it came to go, I was like, I don't have the time for this. Don't have the time for it. And that's the thing we hear the most.
Yeah.
So, well, it's a half more in a month. Oh, I don't have the time for that. It's the most important time of the month.
Yeah.
It's the most important time that you'll have in that month, because when you walk in there and how you walk out of it, he says, I come in and I go, I never done for the time. And then I walk out and I go, oh, that was great. And he feels lighter.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you think about it, you've 12 people, men and women around the table, and, they're really like your non-executive directors.
Yeah.
So you're sharing ideas. Like, last week it just broke into this little side, not even on the agenda, but somebody says, can we talk about like what simple software and not even going deep into AI, but just simple automation and software. So I was like, yeah, no problem. So we had half an hour. We went around the table. I use this for this. I use this for this. And we compiled it all and it went out. And then
brilliant.
Like, great. So
yeah.
It's that sharing and building and sharing and building.
Yes.
Now, I can't tell you that's going to be in the program, but that's with getting the right people
in
the room with each other who are making it about each other. And where I have a problem, a challenge with my staff member, if somebody, I've gone through that before, here's the steps I took, here's the thing I've done, and just that sharing of information, it goes, you Damien, do you remember you were on a course and somebody texted you in the middle, they couldn't come because they're after being hacked?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Yeah, that was a case in point, where somebody couldn't come to the program. Somebody going, we've been hacked. We're dealing with an emergent situation inside the company,
Yeah.
And immediately, one of the guys inside the program is a solicitor, and he deals and specialises in that area. So he rang them straight away and said, this is what you need to do legally. And he actually, while we were in the program, actually sent them a heap of legal documents saying, you need to get this out, you need to communicate this. Here's the email that you need to send to all your customers. And this all happened, in the matter of minutes. So the minute I said somebody inside our community and somebody inside our team here needs support, everybody just went, right, what can we do?
Yeah.
And that's, you can't buy that.
No, correct.
That's, that's again, when you talk about community, it's about doing something that you know is of value to others. And in some time in return, you're going to get that down the road, but it might necessarily be now. But you're not doing it for your self-gain.
No, of course.
You're doing it because you're almost like that non-executive director in somebody else's business, and you care. And the beauty of getting like-minded people sitting around the table is they start to care. And they care. And if you start caring about somebody else's business, you actually start to care more about your own.
Yeah.
And you can put you can put yourself in that environment going, I wouldn't have known how to deal with that. But the collective group did.
Yeah.
And that is just invaluable. And just, sorry, you were talking there, it reminded me of another story where, one of the owner managers came off the program or was on the program, and he was telling me his staff had banned him from running team meetings in the afternoon of the 50X program. Because he'd come back full of enthusiasm. He kind of go, lads, I learned something today in the program. Here's a good tool. We're going to do this. And literally, they had a team meeting going, we can't. This is not working for us, right?
Over the weekend.
So we heard that. That was actually one of the fuels for kind of going, right, well, if we've people inside an organisation that are almost resisting it because the owner managers come back with enthusiasm, then we
Yeah.
need to harness that. So
Yeah.
that's why when we run the masterclasses, you bring your people with
Correct.
you.
Yeah.
So now they're hearing the same language, they're hearing the same stories, and they're getting to meet the people that their owner managers are now calling their community.
Yes.
And it's just amazing that eases the gap between where people are in terms of their personal change and where the company is at their personal change. And we've had the other side as well, where people have brought staff to the program and suddenly realize going, this is not for me. This company is not for me. And I know that sounds really kind of counterintuitive,
That's good. You're weeding out. Yeah.
but the culture of the program, you know what I mean, has weeded out people kind of going, actually, I don't want to come on this journey with you.
Yeah.
And everything that you're talking about, I can see that's right for your company, but you know what, it's just not right for me.
Yeah.
And it's a way for them to actually transition out of the business.
Yeah,
and
brilliant.
that's a good thing. It's right for
Yeah,
everybody.
that's it.
So they're just some funny anecdotes.
Yeah. No, and I love it because what I'm hearing, A, is I have a saying in brotherhood, A, we can't do it alone, and B, why the fuck would you want to? And it's this idea of we're playing this game of life, and it's like the games you played, because obviously a lot of lads who listen are generally in their 20s or early 20s. I've got a few questions I'd love to kind of bring through and add value to them. But what I'm hearing is it's like in a game, because business really is just a game, right? And I love to look at life as a game, right? And the joy comes out of a game when you enjoy playing it. But we're not given a manual on how the rules of engagement and the rules of the game are. But then it's like you've got some players who've played the game for a long time, right? Yeah. It's like, don't go down that dark alleyway. There's a fucking dragon down there, right? So, and it's like, okay, in order to beat this level boss battle, you have to do this, and that, and you gain some XP, and then you got to slowly build your way up. And it's the idea of sometimes it's like the beauty of a map, right? Is you can't move to, let's say you're on like level 1, you can't move to level 3 until you've fully fulfilled the path to level 2 and all of level 2. And I think what happens is so often we try to jump levels without fulfilling the other, but it's unconscious. It's like, I'm trying to do this and I wonder why it's not working. It's because I actually didn't know there was a level before that needed to be achieved, which is what a lot of what you guys are saying. And then my question for you guys is, with your framework and understanding, because I think what you said so rightly there, to add into the framework we brought before, it's like, because we say with lads in brotherhood, what we assist them to get super clear on is, okay, so we heal the boys so the man can step through. So really understand, okay, what in my past has held me back, the beliefs and so forth. And through that, I believe purpose comes online, because it's like, as we alchemize our pain into purpose, we then start to become aware of, okay, what did I learn through my challenges? And that they were gifts given to me. They weren't life condemning me. And then as I can take the gifts that I've learned there, it's like, okay, how can I bring and serve those into the world? And I can start to understand, okay, what lights me up? What are my enthusiasms? That generally, I believe, is what's driving you towards what you're here to do. That's your character's strengths, right? Because it's what's ordinary for you is extraordinary to others. So then when you can drive and get clear on that, then it's like, okay, the vehicle starts to become aware, like the awareness of the vehicle. And it's like, okay, choosing the vehicle, and then all those things is like what you guys have brought to the forward, is like when someone gets to that point where it's like, okay, now I've gone through that and I know what the vehicle is. It's like, how the fuck do I build this vehicle, right? And then it's like, I may have the passion of like building the vehicle, but it's a long journey and there's all those different dragons and so forth. It's like, as I love to say, so often lads think it's like, when I find my purpose, life will be easier. And it's like, no. It's actually going to be harder, but you become better, right? Yeah. And then there's the enjoyment of the challenge. But what would you say for a lad or just anyone watching this that maybe is the beginning? Because I also hear from what you guys said is like, we build the community we wish we had in our times of need. And what would you say to anyone starting out, or maybe in the beginning of their business journey, or still in their 20s and building, with your framework is, what would you say is a crucial sort of understanding framework, sort of step process for them to start at?
That's, it's funny. Like, you have so many analogies there that you could dissect.
I know.
Sorry, I'm going to bring you back to the vehicle one.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the companies that come on our program are already, they're well established. They've got, okay turnover. They want more, but they've okay turnover. And sometimes you describe business transformation as you're trying to change the wheel of the car while you're still driving the car.
Yeah.
And I've used that analogy quite a lot, and we've seen, that just using that analogy where you're kind of going, you can't just stop the car and change the tire. You got to keep going. You got to keep the customer satisfied. You got to keep the show on the road. When you're starting out, I think you start out with a lot of idealism, and I think sometimes when you're a very early entrepreneur, you're early stage, your vision goes like this.
Yeah.
And it starts to become at times so exciting at the start that there's so many ways that you can actually spread your business, so many directions that you can go. Whereas when we see that happening, we kind of go, well, actually, do you know what? That is great, but that's the next stage. So where can you get laser-like? You compare the fluorescent light you have in this room versus a laser. If you took the power of these 4 lights here, they're fluorescent, and you actually put them into one single beam, it would actually cut the table. It'd probably put a hole in the floor. So how, as a early stage business owner, can you really understand what your core business is? And again, I know we spoke about purpose statement. This is what we do, and this is how we benefit others. Yeah. Imagine you're able to do that about one singularity in terms of this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to excel in. If anybody is looking for a good book about that, Good to Great, it's such a good example of that. And they call that. I think he analysed it as the clever fox and the hedgehog. The hedgehog theory, where the hedgehog does one thing really well. He curls in a ball and defends himself. But he puts these spikes out and makes it very hard for him to be attacked. Whereas the fox thinks he's really clever and he jumps around the place and kind of go, oh, that's shiny, that's over there. And you can literally visually see this fox jumping from port to port. But the hedgehog does it nice and slowly, and he just goes about his business and does one thing. And sometimes as an early stage business owner, you just got to go about that one thing that you're extremely good at and you're extremely passionate about.
Yeah.
Get that down to a level where that is going to be successful, and the money will come. And I genuinely mean that the money comes afterwards. If you do something really well and there's a demand for it, the money is the byproduct.
Yeah, of the value you provide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're asking what's that one thing, it's just don't go like that too early.
Correct.
Just bring it back in, bring it back down to that laser-like, and kind of go, we are going to do that one thing exceptionally well.
Yeah.
And then next time when we do that really well, then other opportunities are going to come to start branching out.
Yeah.
That would be my take on it.
I love that. Do you mind if I add just on top of that? Yeah. Is that all right? Because I was just thinking with, like, say this generation, and we've got the AI, and I've noticed it myself as well, and I speak to the lads about this too, is with social media and the internet, everything's so fast. But there's certain laws of nature we can't change. And it's like, as you so rightly said there, and it's almost like that. Hermosi calls it a lady in the red dress, right? So it's like they get a shiny idea and then it's like, oh, I'll go on this idea, right? But I firmly do believe that. One of my mentors spoke about the spinning plates. And it's like if you try to spin 3 at the same time, they all fucking collapse. And I really agree with that in the essence of, I think that's what this generation has to really just be consciously aware of, is that there's certain laws of nature and nothing's going to come quickly, but the ability to stick at one thing long enough to give it time to succeed, because it does take time. And I've really noticed that. And it takes so much longer than what you think it will. But then what you guys are reiterating too is the importance of support, that you don't have to do it on your own. Yeah.
And I think persistence, what you're talking about there is persistence.
Yeah.
I was share just a personal story. This is going back to when my kids were really, really young, and this used to drive my wife nuts. She might watch this; she'll have a good laugh. But we'd be in the car on a journey, and the kids in the back, can we stop for popcorn? Can we stop for something? And I would encourage them to just keep asking. So like it got to be a joke inside the car. Kind of going, can we stop for popcorn? And I'll go, no. Can we stop? No. And I'll do this for ages, And when they stop going, I'll go, if you asked just one more time, we would have stopped.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 2 or 3 journeys. And I swear to God, now my kids clicked it. And I went, Dad, can we stop for popcorn? Can we stop?
Yeah, brilliant.
And
that's so clever.
My wife turned to me and she goes, why are you doing that? And I goes, that's persistence.
Yeah.
Like that'll teach them the value of persistence.
Yes.
You just don't know how many times you got to do the one thing really, really well, and suddenly it clicks.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much my wife appreciated the number of times it happened, but it reminds me of that.
No, brilliant. I love that. I'm going to put that in my tool belt when I have kids. Yeah, I love that.
Do you know your question in terms of those younger?
Yeah.
I think 3 things that I was thinking about when you were asking that. One is your environment matters.
Yeah.
like it's so hard. Some say it's impossible to outwork your environment, but
Yeah.
the people one of the truest statements is you become the sum of the
By
five
people.
and it's such a cliche, but it is so true. Like I can't tell you how true it is, because you by osmosis start to absorb their thought patterns,
Yeah.
their beliefs, their way of being, whether they are positive or negative. You start to absorb
Yeah.
them. So whatever they are, so choose so right, so
Yeah.
be so careful about that. And the hard part can be, we grow up with people and they're our friends, and then you're into your 20s and your mid-20s, and then you're kind of just have this moment where you have to make a decision. Maybe it's just not that guy or that crew for me anymore. And that can be a really hard place to be. And that's why, the likes of, the Brotherhood and stuff, that they have a community where they are surrounded by people who are, ambitious and just like, this is one precious life.
Yeah.
And we get this one chance. And to just, make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to push you, and that you're not the best in the room. I'm big on that. Be in the room where you're not the best.
Yes.
Make sure there's always somebody who you're pushing towards, whether you're training or whether you're in business or whatever. There's somebody, I'm going to try and catch them, or I'm going to, that.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is patience. It takes time.
Yeah.
And the internet doesn't help this with social media, where everybody looks like, I did this thing and I sold 100 things online in 3 months and I'm a millionaire. You're not. You're just not.
Yeah.
But there's so much belief that if I haven't made it by 25,
Yeah.
and I don't have this, and there's an awful lot of pressure on young men to be. I think there's a lot of confusion over the last couple of decades with young men identifying what their role in the world is anymore, because it's changed so much. And I think just, surround yourself with good people, be patient, and then the third part is grow into your authentic self.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard because, you're up till you're, 6, 7, 8, you're just this free being who just, puts on the Spider-Man suit and does what they want. I want to be Spider-Man today, I'm Spider-Man. And then you start to be the person the world wants you to be. And, you start to go in on yourself. And I have an 18-year-old at home, and and he's brilliant. But I see it and just over time, just you start to lean into yourself. The bits of the world that you think, you're afraid to show, that you're vulnerable to show, over time that becomes your superpower.
Yeah.
Those things that you're holding back here and you're going, I'm not going to show that girl or that boss or that thing becomes your superpower. And the more you can start to lean into that and start to go, this is who I am and I'm okay with it, then that's where you'll start to hit that sweet spot. And in all of those, all of it'll take time, and don't worry if you don't have, your sense of purpose. Or I know we've talked a lot about purpose. I didn't know I'm 47. I didn't know what I wanted to do till I was 40. I really begin to get clear on it. And so don't worry. And there's no wrong path. Go out, experience things, learn from it, take it, do something else. Don't be afraid of it. Just, there's no set thing that you're meant to be doing. Just keep going, and eventually, just when you become that authentic version of yourself, that's when life starts really happening for you. So sorry, it was a little bit long.
No, perfectly said, because what you're saying there is again reinforcing the time. It takes time, and there can be so much pressure that young people put on themselves. Like, I mean, it's been like that always, I imagine, but I know
I think it's magnified more now.
Yeah,
I think
with the social media, because, and I really feel the biggest thing that you said there is the proximity, is who you surround yourself with, because you do, like, there's a psychological phenomenon called the Pygmalion effect, which talks about, you literally rise or fall to the standards of your environment. Like, that's what Brotherhood is built on. It's the same idea of, like, you become your environment, and how careful, and that's something I'm very conscious of, like, always, is that, because, you can be as strong as you think you are consciously, like, unconsciously it's going to happen, because we are tribal creatures. And that's, as you were saying, with your community, because with the entrepreneurship world, as you so rightly said, with the mindset that people have as they go into that, it is at times an anomaly in certain scenarios. So there can be that feeling of like, oh shit, am I the only one who thinks this way? Whereas then, on Maslow's hierarchy of needs of like love and belonging, that sense of loving, belonging that comes from a community, like I can sense that's why people come back, because it's like, oh, I belong here. I'm understood. I'm seen. And I'm also celebrated for who I am and how I think, and not told, why do you think that way? Or oh, stop thinking, dreaming, or whatever it was.
It's that old saying, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated, and that's really, really important. Just if anywhere you find yourself and you're just being tolerated, get out of there.
Yeah.
There's places for you where you will absolutely be celebrated.
Yeah.
And just have that belief in yourself that is out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you talked about the levels. Sometimes the levels is, do I trust myself enough to leave one and find the other?
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to burn the boats.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
It's just like, how much... I am leaving. No, I am out. How much? The boats are still there. Yeah. Are you going to burn them? Oh, I'm not sure. And we all do that.
I'll burn two of them, but I'll leave one there. Yeah.
I'll leave one safety boat. Right? And it's sometimes it's going, actually, and I'm a big believer. We are a big believer in, the universe conspires.
Correct.
And
Rewards
that's just
courage.
energy and intention.
Yeah.
The universe will conspire. And also, and it is that courage. It is, will I burn them? And that's you. And sometimes I find at the hardest, darkest points in our lives, it's just being asked that question, how much do you want this?
Yeah.
And you're saying, am I going back to where I was, or am I moving forward?
Yeah.
And sometimes just staying in it, that what Damien talked about, just stay in it. And that can be the thing that can see you through.
Just going to trust your gut.
Ahead. Yeah.
I think all of us probably know the bad decisions that we've made, no matter what age you are, how much experience you have. And 9 times out of 10, when you look back on it, you didn't trust your gut.
Yeah.
And I think there's an innate ability for people to understand where they should be. They mightn't have total clarity on it. There might be, I can see a future version of myself over here, but I don't really know what it looks like, but I kind of feel what it looks like.
Yeah.
And they're faced with decisions. Do I stay in this safe environment and do the right thing that everybody expects of me? Or do I actually start looking at that future self and kind of go, my gut is telling me that that's where I need to be?
Yeah.
And I know personally any bad decision I've ever made is where I didn't follow my gut.
Yeah, so true.
And I can look back and, the younger version of me, that question, what would you tell a younger version of yourself?
Yeah.
That's the one, there's two nuggets we covered on there. Trust your gut and perseverance.
Yeah.
Trust your gut. Because in fairness now, we're great assimilators of all the different experiences, and we're really good at identifying what we like and what we don't like. And sometimes we just get too lost in what we don't like because it's like a comfortable pair of slippers, it's our environment and we just do it, And looking over here and kind of going, actually, my gut is telling me to do that.
Yeah.
Listen to it. Follow it. And when you start following it, the universe conspires.
Yeah.
That's been, I suppose, that's been my kind of little bit of kind of nuggets for anybody who's listening to this who are at the early stages and are thinking about doing something.
Yeah.
If your gut is screaming at you to do it, with every fibre of your being, and all you're doing is clouding the message out because of other stuff that you're hearing, trust your gut.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, that's where the magic starts to happen.
Yeah.
Where you're going, oh, I met this person who knew this person who introduced me to this, and all of a sudden I have this.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
And we said at the very start where we said, don't worry about the how.
Yeah.
That's how we've seen it so many times where, I need this thing for this thing to happen. And it's like, we set a goal, we set the vision, we had our motivators, we were doing all our things. There was a big gap in where we were and where we wanted to be. But the intention, and all of a sudden, this person meets that person, that connection meets that one, and all of a sudden we go, well, will you look at that?
Well, it's like even this podcast, like the fact that I just like, I'm going to do this. They met that, and you guys listened to it, and now we're here, and then
we a couple of the guys are on our program that we're here, and a lot of the people on Jamie and Adam are who are on previous guests, and a lot of the guys and men and women on the program are a little bit older, and it is for businesses that are a bit more established and stuff, but those guys just brought such energy and enthusiasm, and they bring a great mix into the community, where they have that energy and ambition. And it's just like, but there's also the experience, and the mix between the two.
Correct.
Is fabulous
because it reminds the other people of when they started, and it's like when you have a child,
Exactly.
it brings you back to that energy in the beginning.
Both deeply respectful and in both sides. Like there's in both ways. People
Yeah.
are, that's the bit that really works.
Yes.
Is they're really seeing the value in the other,
Yes.
and that's
correct.
where it's very powerful.
Oh, I love it. And there's a quote that really came through when you were talking there. I love it's my favorite ever quote by a guy called Joseph Campbell who wrote The Hero's Journey.
Oh, I was going to say Hero's
yeah,
Journey.
Yeah, there you go.
I was just about to say when Damien talked Hero's Journey.
Yeah, that's it. Read that book.
It. Yeah.
But he said, follow your bliss and the universe will open doors where there once walls, and friends and allies will come from unforeseen places to assist you along your journey. Yeah.
There is youth able to remember beautiful long quotes like that. I'd be halfway through going, the universe conspired. So I'll just leave it at that.
No, but it was perfect.
That was beautiful.
And thank you so much, gentlemen, for jumping on. Like I can say from my side, I feel deeply inspired and like, I feel a sense of belonging having had you on here, because for someone who's come to the country and is still finding that sense of community, it's deeply refreshing to have these conversations. So I appreciate all that you're doing. I'm excited to get involved where I can. And for anyone who is wanting to reach out to you, where can they find you guys?
So our website, which is smematters.ie, has some information there. Our LinkedIn, our socials is all 50x by SME Matters, or just send us an email, 50x@smematters.ie. Our next program kicks off on the 27th of March in Swords, and we have 5 places left. So it's filling up, and it will fill up. And again, it's all about getting the right people on it. We're not in a rush. We had a cohort last year that we delayed for a couple of months going because it just wasn't filled with the right people. That's okay. That's okay. It's about the right people at the right time.
Correct.
So... And the big thing for people is if we talked about that inner sense, if you feel that you're in a business and you've been waiting for something and you just happen to be listening to this and you get that sense of, this is it, I want to do it.
Correct.
Well, that is the time.
That's the gut.
That is
so true. Yeah, and that's where like again, the last one, my mentor would say, the heart has reason the mind cannot comprehend.
Exactly.
And I love that. It's like logically there's certain things you cannot explain.
My mentor's version of this was, our tiny minds can't fathom it.
Yes, so true.
We've got this universal mind, which is billions of possibility, and then we try to figure things out with our tiny little minds, which is it's either option A or option B. It's never 2 options.
Yeah, that's
never
it.
2.
Yeah, so
it's
true.
funny, like thoughts are the language of the mind. Feelings are the language of the body. We all have so many different versions of the exact same thing, which is listen to your gut.
Correct.
And trust that you're making the right decision, the universe will conspire.
Correct.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for jumping on. Absolute pleasure. So guys, thank you for jumping on the Brotherhood podcast. As I always like to say, the mission beckons, the mission calls. Let's fucking go.